With a major selection of the looks your kiddos love starting at just $4 in the Walmart app, a new school year means a stylish new them. Who knew? Find skater skirts and Crocs that say, I'm casual but cool. Sparkly sneakers that say, it's my classroom, you're just learning in it. And preppy polos that say, I'm the teacher's pet, even if they're mommy's menace at home. Find their favorite styles starting at just $4 in the app. The Walmart you thought you knew is now new.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold! Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
USAA knows dynamic duos can save the day, like superheroes and sidekicks or auto and home insurance. With USAA, you can bundle your auto and home and save up to 10%. Learn more and get a quote at usaa.com/bundle. Restrictions apply.
Encore une fois. This is the inside story of Paris 2024. 1 year on, one more time.
This first dive from Tom Daley and his partner Noah Williams will be an inward 1.5 somersault in the pike position. Here at the Paris Aquatic Centre, it is Olympic silver for Tom Daley and Noah Williams.
Revenge for the French, I think, in the mountain bike where Pidcock won the gold. You can hear Gaston cheering himself in the background there, I think. They have beaten the Brits into second.
This is Encore and Fois, the inside Paris story from Anything But Footy. 1 year on, one more time. It's Monday the 29th of July. It's day 3 in Paris, the Olympic Games of 2024. I actually started my day, and if you were listening to yesterday, you will have heard me talking about Team GB House. I started my day there with the canoe slalom medal winner, Kimberly Woods. But you were back at the canoeing, seeking out more medals.
Yeah, I always think it's interesting, the first day of a weekday of the Olympics. So the Friday is a weekday, but it's the opening ceremony day. It's not like a normal day because you're building up to something in the evening. You then have a whole weekend of sport and you win medals and you start to get into some kind of routine and some kind of pattern. And then on a Monday, everything changes because back at base or because it's a weekday, there's more people going to work in Paris. So the commute may be different. And back at base at the radio station, a brand new team comes in. You've got different producers, you've got different presenters. And I remember feeling that in London 2012, which was really the first Olympics that I covered as a journalist. And every first Monday of an Olympics since, it's always been different from the weekend that you've just had.
I hadn't really ever thought about that, but you're right. There was a noticeable upsurge in interest internally, should we say, at the radio station on that Monday morning. We'd had the weekend. We sort of had got into our stride, got into our routines. We kind of knew who we were dealing with back at base. And then, as you say, and I hadn't really thought about it, Monday morning,
it all changes.
Different group. And there was a lot more people because obviously everyone was back to work and they all got excited watching the Olympics over the weekend. And suddenly it was right. John, Michael, you're on it. And I look at my schedule for that Monday and it's reflecting in what you've just said. Because as I said, I started at Team GB House. I went to diving, I went to mountain biking, and I went to gymnastics. And that was all on one day. And that is probably because there was that level of interest from back at home, and people saying, we need to do this, we need to get here, we need to do this.
And everybody, as you rightly said, been sitting on the sofa across the weekend, listening to it on TalkSport, obviously, but watching it and getting enthused, and then coming into and everyone would talk about it in the office, the water cooler moments. Did you see this? Did you see that? Do you remember what's going to happen today? Are we going to win? We've started brilliantly, blah, blah, blah. And it's really, really interesting. And it's just something for anyone who works at Olympics to bear in mind. And also the Paris changed. as I say, there were more people about. There was people going about their normal business. It was slightly different to, and you kind of had to get that in mind. So yeah, I went back to the rowing and canoe slalom, and this was, I think, the second day in a row that I'd been there, and you start to get comfortable. You know your routine. You know where you're going. You don't have to ask stupid questions. You don't need as many Haribo to persuade people to give you what you need and get you in the right place. And it was another great day, which really made me think that British rowing was going to bounce back from the worst Olympics in 50 years in Tokyo and win gold medals. Now, I might have slightly got carried away on this day in the rowing because the women's and men's eights both won their heats straight through to the finals. We had previous success yesterday, if you listened to the episode, of getting people through to the finals. And I think I might have said on the radio, we're going to win 5 golds in rowing. And I, again, something I've learned is don't get caught up in the moment and don't get caught up in the excitement of a first round, second round. And you're about to talk about Tom Daley. He had an incredible performance and broke the world record in Rio qualifying for the second round of the 10-meter platform. And then he failed to qualify for the final. So he did the world record in the qualifying semi-final. He didn't. And I think that is something that you have to remember. And it really dawned on me from a rowing point of view. Not that rowing didn't do brilliantly, because they did bounce back. They finished behind Netherlands, as we'll talk about in days to come, in the medals table, and right back in it compared to Tokyo. But I think I went on the radio and was probably a bit OTT.
I tell you what, you were there at Versailles, and I was using some of your intel because I was at the aquatic centre for my first visit for the diving. One of my key memories actually of that venue was the roof, this like wonderful sort of curved wooden roof. And I thought it just really lent itself to and you talked about the noise levels and the adjusting noise levels. I thought the acoustics in the venue was brilliant. So the venue had kind of the diving at one end, and then there was another pool for water polo that was going to be at the other end. And I really don't think we kind of knew what to expect from Tom Daley and Noah Williams. We had them on our database as definitely a medal chance, but we know that Tom obviously had been retired out of the sport for over 2 years.
Yep.
We knew, because I remember speaking to Noah before the Olympics, that they hadn't even really been training together. They'd been training separately.
On Zoom, hadn't they?
On Zoom. And then Noah said he'd gone to UCLA basically for a fortnight. So we were a bit up in the air, I think, on how they would do. And I remember going and arriving at the venue, and I bumped into 2 people that I know really well. One is Gemma, who was actually the hockey press attaché, but had previously looked after the divers. And I bumped into Matty Lee. And we literally bumped into each other on some steps. I think he was doing some TV work while he was out there. But we stopped and we had a little chat, and I was asking him kind of what he thought as the guy that won the gold alongside Tom in Tokyo. And he was pretty confident that his mates were going to be there and winning that medal. And I just thought, a bit weird maybe for Matty, because like 3 years previously, he'd been there next to Tom. And if you'd asked me in Tokyo which one of Matty Lee or Tom Daley is going to be at the next Olympics, I'd have probably said Matty Lee, not Tom Daley, because what was it, Tom's fifth games? Yeah. So, but yeah, it was great. And I remember from a radio point of view, I knew that they would have 6 dives. And I remember the radio station said to me, we're going to come for you for commentary on each dive. And I remember thinking to myself, I need 6 different things to say here. I can't just say the same thing every time they come to me. The diving, as you know, happens very quickly in terms of the rounds come through really quickly. It's all done and dusted in an hour.
Well, as we know from Tom Daley's documentary, it takes you 1.6 seconds to go from the top of the 10-meter platform to the pool.
Yeah, so I knew that I needed, and that's where all those conversations that we'd had with Noah and with Tom in the build up to the games really came to fruition, because I was able to bring a new bit to the story. If someone at home had been listening for the whole hour, they'd have had something different every time. And yeah, obviously, ultimately they won the medal.
And Tom Daley won the silver with Noah Williams, as you say, and that was a medal he'd never won before. He'd won the gold in Tokyo and a bronze, and a couple of bronzes in London and Rio, as we know in synchro. I think he's the most decorated diver. He says he's retired. I've watched this documentary. If you haven't seen it on Discovery or the corresponding channels, then do. It's incredibly emotional. It's really difficult to watch at times, but it's so uplifting as well at the same time. And what that kid went through, frankly, is beyond any of our imaginations. And the way he tells that story, I'd recommend it to anybody. But where do you think he stands in the greatest Olympian discussion? We can't talk about it in massive detail here, but he's up there, isn't he? He's up there with Sir Steve Redgrave winning those golds because of what he's done and what he went through.
Yeah, greatest Olympian, greatest sports person is slightly nuanced. I think I would have him right up there as one of the greatest sports people this country has produced, because the whole system of diving, the whole program of diving in this country is pretty much where it is now, with the success that we see now because of Tom Daley. What he's done outside of the sport, the fact he's been a fantastic advocate for women's sport, for the LGBTQ plus community, seeing him at Birmingham and the Commonwealth Games with the Pride flag as part of the opening ceremony. These are all things that just simply wouldn't have happened without Tom Daley and the success he's achieved. And he's won a whole bunch of Olympic medals. You know, he's got the full set: a gold, a silver, and 2 bronzes. Does that put him on a par with Chris Hoy, Steve Redgrave, Matt Pinsent, Bradley Wiggins with their 6s and 7 gold medals? That's a really difficult one. What I would just say about Tom, and I've said it time and time again, is he came to do his interviews with us afterwards with Noah, and I chatted to them both, and I poked a bit of fun at Tom that he was, not retired because the next Olympics were in his hometown of LA. So there was no way he wasn't going to come back for that one. And I remember he came into the room and he'd spoken to a couple of the other rights holders that he had to speak to, and he saw TalkSport and insisted on coming to speak to TalkSport next, because there were 20 camera crews in that room and they all wanted to speak to him. And we had a little post-it note, UK Talk Sport. So we had a little fixed position that they'd learned from you the previous day, and you'd been sort of overrun by crews from China, I think. And so we had our own little protected space, and Tom and Noah came over. We had a lovely chat, and then he just went round the room and he spoke to everybody else. And he was like, I just want to say hi to all my fans in this country, in that country, and posed for all the selfies. A lot of people, I think, were just there. And I'd seen that before, actually, on Gold Coast at the Commonwealth Games. Like 80 people turned up for a Tom Daley media day, and they just really wanted the picture with him. And so the fact that he has come through all the aversion in his life, the adversity in his life, achieved what he's achieved, and continued to do it with a smile on his face, being a nice person, and seemingly being pretty well adjusted, that makes him up there in the conversation.
So from 1 silver medal for Tom Daley and Noah Williams, another silver medal at the canoe slalom. We'd won the bronze, as we heard in the previous episode with Kimberly Woods. This time it was her mate, her friend, Adam Burgess, him getting the opportunity to right a wrong from 3 years previously at Tokyo, where he finished in the worst place in the Olympics, in 4th place. Now, you're going to say that's not the worst place.
I'm not going to say it. Daley Thompson says it.
Oh, okay.
He's the one that said this to me. He said 4th isn't the worst place. It's
Last
better
is.
than 5th.
Yes,
it's better than 5th.
Okay, look, he's a double Olympic champion. Has he ever finished 4th?
Well, probably at some point somewhere in his career, but no,
but not really. I mean, it's so frustrating because you're that close to the medal, aren't you? Now, look, Adam Burgess did a brilliant run, but he was 5 seconds, I think, off Nicolas Gastin of France, who won that final. And we talked about how the canoe slalom, with the noise and the cauldron and the adrenaline, it was quickly becoming my favourite venue, from rowing in the morning to canoe slalom in the afternoon and winning medals. But isn't it interesting, Michael, that on day 3, you were there for a silver medal, I was there for a silver medal. We were about to get our first gold.
Well, the first gold actually came in Versailles at the team eventing. But we thought the first gold might be at the mountain biking. at Encore. We thought that Tom Pidcock might get it. And so that's where I was. And it was really interesting, actually, that there's this synergy between what you and I were doing, because you had at the canoe slalom a Frenchman winning the gold, just narrowly beating out a Brit. And you referenced that on the radio at the tables were turned, because where I was, I had Tom Pidcock winning the gold, narrowly edging out a home favourite. And remember, of course, Tom Pidcock had the puncture in the middle of that race as well. And at points in it, most people thought he had no chance, little or no chance. I had a chat with, I think, Stephen Park, performance director at British Cycling. And we did a little live chat on the radio. And I think he was sort of 30 odd seconds down at that point. And Stephen Park went, no, you can still win it from here. Still win it from here.
Great call.
And he called it live on Talk Sport, and he did win it, and gold medal edging out the Frenchman. So the opposite to what you were seeing.
Yeah, a total contrast, as you say, of emotion. Didn't he nudge? Didn't he kind of push his way past? I mean, he is a double Olympic champion, Tom Pidcock. He is someone who is so focused and will, I think, potentially, you mentioned Sir Chris Hoy, Bradley Wiggins, he could well win as some different medals to them. Not maybe as many, but to win 2 back-to-back mountain bikes and then go and perform on the road as well in road race, which of course he does as a weekly kind of job for his teams. That he's so much talent.
And again, I mean, he's a man of few words, actually, Tom Pidcock, but
yes, so much talent, very few words.
And I remember being in a bit of a scrum at the end, recording a bit of an interview with him, and he was just totally Tom Pidcock, like just won a second gold medal in dramatic circumstances. I was hoarse, having pretty much lost my voice broadcasting, and he was just like, he's a Leeds guy. So that's what I do. But I was going to say, I did a Zoom call just in the build up to the Olympics with Tom Pidcock and Evie Richards, the other mountain bike. And all the questions were at Tom. No one had asked Evie any other questions. And I thought that's a bit rude. So I asked Evie some questions at the end. And then 2 of the other journalists said to me afterwards, I'm glad you asked those questions. We thought she was the press officer.
Oh, dear.
I'm not going to name the journalists involved,
no.
But no, they didn't realise that she was a fellow Olympian.
So you were there for one of the first golds for Team GB, as you say, rightly so, in Versailles. The eventing team, the 3-day eventing team, or eventing team as it's called now, won gold as well, which probably took some of the focus away from the whole Dujardin issue from an equestrian point of view, and it was their first eventing gold, or defending their title as well. So first gold for Team GB there, then Tom Pidcock's, and then the silvers kind of continued. I think it was Matt Richards won silver in the men's 200 meter free. He was the world champion going into that event in the swimming pool, and I think he lost on a touch, talking about coming fourth as the worst place, but what about losing on the touch by 0.02 seconds?
Yeah, it's a really difficult one as a swimmer, because I think your natural thing is to go with the palm of your hand. That's the natural sort of feeling with the stroke. But actually that 0.02, if you go with the point of the finger and hit the pad that way, then that could be the difference between a gold and a silver.
Some of the other headlines: men's Great Britain's gymnastics team missed out on a team medal.
Fourth, I was there. We'll talk more about Bercy in this podcast.
We will.
I don't want to get into Bercy just yet. Let's keep our powder dry on that wonderful, beautiful part of Paris.
Delicious Ore was out of the boxing as well, and the women were out of the rugby sevens as well. At this point, day 3, France had 16 medals and 5 golds. Great Britain had 11 medals and 2 golds. And I can remember thinking, because I used to walk past from my hotel to various metro links, the Olympic Association for France. It's on bizarrely, the Coubertin Avenue, which, frankly, it was the nicest part of where I was in my hotel, walking along Coubertin Avenue every day and walking past the Stade Charlie, which is where the French Olympic Association is based. And I kind of got to think at that point, and we probably should have known that this was going to happen, that France were more likely to beat Great Britain in the medals table. And I think we already knew by day 3 that was possible.
Yeah, and I think it enhanced the games. You know, I don't want to look at this through a red, white and blue Union flag jingoistic viewpoint. I think we said it in a previous episode when we talked, didn't we, about Antoine Dupont. You need home success for the games. And, you know, I think it was a good games for Great Britain. We'll talk more towards the end. It wasn't the greatest games for Great Britain, but it was a great games for France. And without all of that attention and atmosphere, I think it just overall enhanced the whole experience of the city hosting. So
I think they'd learned maybe that you have to win medals in all these different events. You mentioned mountain biking, we mentioned canoe slalom. Of course, we know that the only place they didn't win an Olympic medal, or a gold medal anyway, was athletics.
Yeah.
In the Stade de France, there was never the Le Massier with the gold medal at that point.
Yeah, I think that was a shame. You know, we'll talk more when we get into the second week of the games about that. But yeah, it would have been nice to have heard it on an athletics night. We did hear it inside the stadium for the rugby. So, you know, win some, lose some.
You certainly do. So it was a silver day and a golden day for Team GB on day 3 of Paris 2024. We're looking back on what we did, where we were, some of the stories, some of the winners. This is Encore, Fois, the inside Paris story from Anything But Footy.
Encore une fois, Paris 2024, one more time.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.